Burn the old self. Rise as strategist. Men are so simple and so subject to present necessities that he who deceives will always find someone who will let himself be deceived. Niccolo Machiavelli, the Prince. Let's begin with a brutal truth. The world does not reward kindness. It consumes it. While you were raised to believe that being honest, open, and vulnerable would earn you love and respect, the predators of this world sharpened their teeth while you were busy explaining yourself. You were trained to be soft, to wait, to believe in fairness. But Machiavelli knew 5 centuries ago what too many still refuse to accept. Life is not a morality play. It is a chessboard of survival. Look at politics. Every election, millions believe candidates who sell them dreams of compassion and fairness. But the winners are rarely the most moral. They are the most strategic. The fox who flatters while hiding teeth. The lion who strikes when the moment is ripe. Barack Obama didn't win just because of hope and change. He studied optics, mastered timing, controlled image. Donald Trump didn't dominate by being polite. He bulldozed attention, using outrage as a weapon. Different styles, same Machiavellian principle. Power is perception, and perception must be engineered. Now, ask yourself, in your own life, how many times did you lose because you were too busy being good instead of being effective? How many opportunities slipped away while you waited to be chosen? How many relationships collapsed because you confused honesty with power? This is where your transformation begins. You must burn the script society handed you, the one that told you to always explain yourself, to always be available, to always forgive. That script wasn't designed for you to rise. It was designed to keep you tame, to keep you predictable, obedient, safe for others to use. The modern world thrives on this obedience. Social media tells you to be yourself, but what they mean is be marketable. Companies want you loyal, not ambitious. Relationships often demand comfort, not truth. The old version of you was designed to be consumed, not crowned. And that version of you, he dies today. This is not healing. This is demolition, the destruction of weakness, hesitation, the addiction to approval. You are not here to fix yourself like a broken chair. You are here to rebuild yourself as a weapon. Think of Julius Caesar crossing the Rubicon. That single act was not about comfort. It was about burning the old path of retreat. Once he marched forward, there was no going back. You must do the same internally. Cross your Rubicon. Leave no bridge behind for your softer self to crawl back across. Maybe you feel uneasy hearing this. Good. That's your awakening. Comfort is not your ally. It is your coffin. Every minute spent craving approval, every second chasing validation is another link in the chain around your neck. Break it. Look at relationships. One of the purest battlefields for Machiavellian psychology. The person who cares less always controls more. The one who withholds approval dictates the rhythm. How many people have been destroyed because they gave unlimited access to their emotions? They confuse vulnerability with power, not realizing that the one who reacts first always loses. Think of Elon Musk negotiating deals. He is unpredictable, unreadable, sometimes appearing reckless, sometimes patient. That unreadability is a sword. He who cannot be read cannot be controlled. You must learn the same. Stop broadcasting your emotions like free radio. Every flinch, every overreaction, every desperate attempt to be understood, it all makes you a slave. From today forward, your silence becomes your strategy. Your stillness becomes your shield. Let others misunderstand you. Let them build false maps of your intentions. Their assumptions will become their downfall. You are not here to be understood. You are here to be unreadable. Imagine walking into a room and saying nothing, yet people whisper, "What's he thinking? What's his angle?" That's not weakness. That's dominance. And dominance, when quiet, is 10 times more terrifying. Machiavelli wrote that a prince must imitate both the fox and the lion. The fox avoids traps, the lion crushes wolves. To survive, you must be both, but never reveal which one you are. In public, let virtue be your mask. In private, sharpen ruthlessness into your blade. Would you rather be loved for being harmless or feared for being powerful? History has already answered for you. The feared endure, the harmless are forgotten. Think of relationships again. The nice guy who always gives, always explains, always waits. He becomes invisible. Meanwhile, the man who knows his value, who withholds, who sets boundaries without apology, he becomes magnetic. Why? Because scarcity breeds respect. Silence creates gravity. Your first order is clear. Delete the man you were trained to be. Say it now, even under your breath. My past self is ashes. This is not motivation. This is identity. From this moment on, you are not chasing comfort. You are building command, not applause, but presence, not approval, but leverage. And here's the question I leave you with for now, one that will sting. Do you think Machiavelli was right? That mercy, kindness, and vulnerability are weaknesses in the game of power? Or do you believe there's still room for morality at the top? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Because this channel isn't for those who want to stay blind. It's for those who dare to see the world as it truly is. Silence as a weapon, unreadability as power is rarely loud. The loudest man in the room is usually the weakest. He shouts because he fears being ignored, because his words have no gravity without volume. Machiavelli would call such a man predictable. And predictability is death. The truly powerful man doesn't need to scream. He speaks little, and every silence in between becomes thunder. Think about Vladimir Putin. Whether you admire him or despise him, you cannot deny his mastery of silence. In negotiations, he often sits still, letting the other side speak themselves into weakness. A single raised eyebrow, a pause longer than expected, and opponents scramble to fill the void. That silence is not emptiness, it is design. It forces others to reveal their fears, their insecurities, their true intentions. Your life is no different. In business meetings, in arguments with a partner, in casual conversations, the person who breaks silence first often loses. Most people cannot bear tension. They over-explain, they justify, they expose themselves. You must train yourself to endure the quiet until others bleed their secrets into it. Imagine someone accusing you unfairly. Most men rush to defend themselves, spilling explanations, begging to be understood. But what happens if you just hold eye contact and say nothing? Their words echo louder, their insecurity multiplies. Suddenly, the burden shifts. Silence becomes your sword. Machiavelli warned that men judge more by the eye than by the hand. In modern terms, this means people judge more by perception than by truth. Your silence crafts perception. It makes people project their own fears onto you. When you do not explain yourself, others assume your reasons are strong. When you do not justify, others imagine you have nothing to prove. In relationships, this principle is devastatingly effective. The partner who reacts the most, who argues the longest, who explains the hardest, always ends up with less power. Why? Because emotional availability without control is emotional slavery. But the partner who listens, who pauses, who waits before responding, they create an aura of strength. They are unreadable, and unreadable people are irresistible. Take Steve Jobs. He was notorious for sitting silently in meetings, staring without expression, while his team nervously tried to guess what he was thinking. That silence was not weakness. It was a psychological trap. It forced others to overcompensate, to reveal more, to push harder, just to fill the void. Jobs understood Machiavelli's principle. Silence intimidates more effectively than anger. Ask yourself, How often do you give away your power by reacting too quickly? How often do you explain yourself to people who don't deserve an explanation? How often do you broadcast your emotions to those who will use them against you? Here's your new law. If it triggers you, it owns you. A man who is easy to provoke is a man already enslaved. The boss who can make you lose your temper controls you. The lover who can make you beg has already won. The friend who can guilt you into compliance is not a friend, he is a handler. From today forward, you become your own handler. Your silence is no longer a gap, it is your shield. Your stillness is no longer hesitation, it is calculation. The pause before you speak, that half second of delay, becomes your sharpest blade. Because that pause tells the world, I am not reacting, I am choosing. Next time you're in conflict, try it. Before you answer, let the silence stretch until the other person feels the weight of your unreadability. You'll notice something strange. They start explaining themselves to you. They start adjusting their tone. The battlefield tilts in your favor. But understand this. Unreadability is not about being robotic. It's about being strategic. Machiavelli said, a ruler must appear virtuous, even if he is ruthless inside. Likewise, you must sometimes smile, sometimes nod, sometimes mirror the energy in the room, but always with calculation. You are an actor on the stage of power. Your expressions are tools, not truths. Let me ask you, when was the last time you played the fool on purpose? Pretended not to know so someone else would reveal too much? That's the Machiavellian art of masks. Sometimes you wear the mask of the ally, sometimes the mask of the fool, sometimes the mask of the king. But your true face is shown to no one. Business leaders use this constantly. Jeff Bezos often presented himself as a nerd obsessed with books and customer service. Meanwhile, he was quietly building one of the most ruthless empires in human history. His smile was real, but it was also camouflage. Behind it was a predator who understood timing, leverage, and silence. This applies to love as well. Many ruin relationships by being too transparent too soon. They dump all emotions, all history, all wounds on the table. They think it creates intimacy. Sometimes it does, but more often it creates predictability. The other person knows exactly which buttons to push, which wounds to reopen, which triggers to pull. Machiavelli would laugh at such foolishness. He would remind you, if they can read you, they can rule you. From this day forward, you build walls, not wounds. You train your mind to observe, not react. Every hesitation you see in others, every slip of tone, every nervous laugh, it all becomes data. You become the sniper of human behavior, waiting for the perfect shot. And here's your challenge, audience. What's harder for you, holding silence when accused, or hiding your emotions when provoked? Which one do you struggle with most? Drop your answers below, and let's see who's truly mastering Machiavelli's art. Because remember, this channel is not about comfort, it's about control. And control begins where reaction ends. Discipline as your new religion. Pleasure is the leash. It disguises itself as freedom, as reward, but its true purpose is enslavement. Every empire in history understood this. The Romans kept their citizens quiet with bread and circuses, cheap food, and endless distraction. Today, nothing has changed. Only the circus looks different. It's not lions and gladiators. It's TikTok and fast food. It's Netflix. Marathons and dopamine loops engineered to keep you soft. Machiavelli would not be surprised. He wrote that men are ungrateful, fickle, false, cowardly, covetous. In other words, the masses can be controlled with comfort. Give them just enough entertainment, just enough distraction, and they will never rise against you. They'll sedate themselves into obedience. And here is where you must separate yourself from the herd. Because while the world sells pleasure as liberation, it is really the velvet cage. The man addicted to comfort cannot strategize. The man enslaved to dopamine cannot dominate. And if you want to wield power, you must become what most men fear: disciplined. Think of Alexander the Great. He conquered half the known world before the age of 30, not because he indulged every whim, but because he lived like a soldier. He could march with his men for days, survive with little, and still fight at dawn. His self-denial was his edge. His rivals drowned in excess, while he sharpened himself in hardship. Now, think of the modern battlefield. Business. Elon Musk doesn't sleep 8 cozy hours when Tesla is burning cash. He sleeps on the factory floor, disciplined to the edge of obsession. Is it extreme? Absolutely, but Machiavelli would nod with approval. The man who delays gratification, who resists pleasure, who sacrifices comfort for leverage, that man becomes inevitable. Ask yourself honestly, how many times this week did you sell your future for 10 seconds of dopamine? A scroll, a snack, a quick release, a binge? Every time you gave in, you weren't just indulging, you were trading sovereignty for slavery. This is why discipline must become your new religion, not something you practice when convenient, but something you are. Discipline is not about denying yourself joy forever. It's about mastering joy, about deciding when, how, and if pleasure serves you, because a king doesn't bow to his desires bow to him. Machiavelli wrote that a prince must be feared more than loved, if he cannot be both. Apply this inwardly. You must fear your own weakness more than you love temporary pleasure, because weakness is the assassin in silk. It will smile at you while it rots your empire from the inside. Look at relationships. How many collapse because one person cannot resist temptation? Infidelity, addictions, obsessions with validation. They destroy trust, respect, and leverage. The disciplined man, the man who controls himself, commands more than loyalty. He commands awe. He becomes rare, and rarity is the essence of power. Take Warren Buffett. For decades, he lived in the same house, drove modest cars, avoided excess. He didn't chase every indulgence. He chased leverage, compounding long-term positioning. And the result? Power that endures. Buffett plays a Machiavellian game not through ruthless cruelty, but through ruthless restraint. Contrast that with the countless celebrities who collapse under their own indulgence. Too much pleasure, too little control. They burn out, fade, or self-destruct because discipline was never their creed. They became kings without fortresses, and kings without fortresses fall. Here's your new mantra. Every yes to short-term pleasure is a no to long-term power. Every scroll is stolen focus. Every binge is stolen leverage. Every indulgence is a silent surrender. But don't misunderstand me. Discipline is not about living miserably. It is about constructing your empire brick by brick. The gym is not about vanity. It is about command of your body. The diet is not about image. It is about fuel for war. The business is not about money. It is about leverage over time. The silence is not about emptiness. It is about threat. Picture 2 men walking into a room. One reeks of indulgence, overweight, distracted, constantly on his phone. The other radiates restraint, fit, focused, calm. Which one do you instinctively respect? Which one would you follow into war? You already know the answer. Discipline is magnetic. It communicates strength without words, and that is why you must turn it into ritual. Wake not asking, what feels good? Wake asking, what builds my fortress? Do not confuse motion with mastery. Every grinder brags about hustle, but few refine. Discipline isn't about noise. It is about precision. Quiet, consistent, relentless precision. So here's my challenge to you, the viewer. What's one pleasure you know has been stealing your power? Is it scrolling, drinking, smoking, chasing validation? Drop it in the comments. Say it out loud. Because once you name the enemy, you can conquer it. And never forget, this isn't about morality, it's about strategy. Weak men think self-denial makes you boring. Machiavelli knew the opposite. Restraint makes you untouchable, because the man who cannot be seduced cannot be controlled. Your empire will not be built on sand. It will be built on standards, and every act of discipline is another wall no enemy can breach. Boundaries, alliances, and the architecture of power. You cannot build an empire if your gates are open to everyone. Access is the true currency of power, and most men give it away cheaply. They let people drain their time, steal their focus, erode their standards, all in the name of kindness, loyalty, or history. But Machiavelli knew better. He wrote that men must either be caressed or annihilated. In other words, you must deal with people strategically, not sentimentally. Every time you say yes when you mean no, you surrender a piece of your sovereignty. Every time you explain yourself to someone who hasn't earned the right to hear your truth, you dilute your value. This is why boundaries are not selfish. They are sacred. They are the walls of your fortress. And a fortress without walls is not a fortress at all. It's a ruin waiting to be invaded. Look at politics. Winston Churchill was admired not because he bent easily, but because he held his line with steel. Allies respected him. Enemies feared him. He was not a man swayed by guilt or endless compromise. His clarity became Britain's backbone during its darkest hour. A leader without boundaries becomes a puppet. A leader with boundaries becomes a pillar. Now, think of your own life. Who drains you? Who constantly asks without giving? Who disguises entitlement as friendship? These people are not allies. They are liabilities. And liabilities must be cut, not emotionally, but strategically. You are not running a hotel. You are building a kingdom. And kingdoms do not let parasites feast at the banquet table. Ask yourself this. If tomorrow you erased the 3 most draining people in your life, how much energy would return to you? How much sharper would your mind become? How much further could you move toward your mission? Write it in the comments. You may discover your empire has been bleeding because you've been feeding the wrong mouths. Understand this. Boundaries are power. When you say no without guilt, you project authority. When you withdraw access, you create scarcity. And scarcity breeds respect. Let people wonder where you went. Let them miss you. Because absence, when deliberate, creates gravity. But cutting people isn't enough. You must also build strategically. Machiavelli said it plainly. The first method for estimating the intelligence of a ruler is to look at the men he has around him. Your circle is your mirror. If they are weak, you will sink. If they are sharp, you will rise. Think of Steve Jobs again. He was ruthless about his inner circle. He didn't surround himself with comfort givers. He surrounded himself with challengers, visionaries, and loyal executors. He built a culture of sharpness, and that sharpness turned Apple into an empire. Now compare that to the average man's circle, filled with drinking buddies, complainers, and people who applaud mediocrity. No strategy, no standards, just noise. And noise is poison for an ambitious mind. Friendships are emotional. Alliances are strategic. You don't need bonding. You need alignment. You don't need more people. You need the right people, those who sharpen you, not soften you, those who bring vision, loyalty, or discipline. Everyone else is an unnecessary guest in your fortress. History proves this. Alexander the Great had Hephaestion, not just a companion, but a strategist who shared his vision. Julius Caesar had Agrippa. Great men surround themselves with allies who elevate the mission, not anchors who drag it down. Look at your circle right now. Who sharpens you? Who challenges your blind spots? Who forces you to level up? If the answer is no one, then you are surrounded, not supported, and that should terrify you. Boundaries also apply to love. The man who makes himself endlessly available is the man who loses respect. The woman who tolerates disrespect without consequence loses leverage. Boundaries are not cruelty. They are clarity. They communicate, I am sovereign. I am not here to be drained. I am here to build. This is why Machiavelli advised rulers to reward loyalty, but punish betrayal decisively. Half measures invite parasites to return. Full measures remove them permanently. In your personal life, this doesn't always mean cruelty, but it does mean firmness. It means saying no without apology. It means closing doors without reopening them. Picture a general at war. Does he let deserters back into his ranks without consequence? Does he let traitors share his food? Number, because his army is his survival. Treat your life the same. Audit your circle like a general audits his troops. Your time is sovereign. Your presence is earned. Every alliance must justify its place in your empire. And alliances are not static. They are tested again and again. Those who prove themselves stay. Those who don't, leave. Even in business, alliances dictate survival. Amazon rose because Bezos forged alliances with investors, suppliers, and talent who believed in the long-term mission. But he was equally ruthless in cutting partners who no longer aligned. That duality, loyalty and ruthlessness, is what Machiavelli admired. He knew that sentiment destroys kingdoms, but strategy builds them. Here's the truth. People will call your clarity cruel. They will call your distance cold. But cruelty is often the word used by the weak to describe the discipline of the strong. You are not here to keep everyone comfortable. You are here to keep your mission alive. So let me ask you, do you have the courage to cut what weakens you, even if it's wrapped in history, love, or habit? Or will you let familiarity chain you to mediocrity? Answer in the comments, because this is the test that separates rulers from slaves. Your fortress is not built with bricks. It is built with standards. Boundaries are the blueprint. Alliances are the reinforcements. And the circle you keep is either your crown or your curse. Choose wisely, because in the end, Machiavelli was right. Power does not belong to those who are kindest. It belongs to those who are clearest, coldest, and most disciplined in their architecture of relationships. The eternal edge. Mastery without a rival. There is one final lie that destroys more kings than any enemy army. The illusion of a rival. The belief that once you reach a certain level of wealth, status, or respect, the war is over. You can relax, you can rest, you can stop sharpening the blade. That lie has killed more empires than invasions, because comfort is the most seductive assassin. Machiavelli warned of it centuries ago. Fortune is fickle, and the moment you stop preparing, she turns against you. He wrote that rulers who fail to adapt to changing times will be destroyed, no matter how great they once were. In modern language, yesterday's victories don't protect you today. Think of Nokia. Once the king of mobile phones, so dominant it seemed, untouchable. Then it stopped adapting. It believed its throne was permanent. Within years, it was eaten alive by Apple and Samsung. Power isn't a trophy, it's a pulse. The moment you stop feeding it with discipline, it dies. The same applies to people. History is full of rulers, athletes, CEOs who thought they had made it. They relaxed, dulled their edge, and within a few years, they were dethroned. The world doesn't care who you were. It only cares who you are right now, under pressure. Ask yourself this: how many of your enemies, rivals, or competitors are silently waiting for you to get comfortable? To soften, to ease off, to celebrate? Comfort is their spy. The moment you let it in, you've already lost. Mastery, then, is not a finish line. It is a ritual. It is polishing the blade every day, not out of paranoia, but out of precision. The sharpest sword dulls fastest, and the man who refuses to sharpen daily becomes the dullest of all. This is why self-reinvention must be constant. You don't just rebuild once, you rebuild always. Your standards don't expire when you hit a milestone, they intensify. If you lifted yesterday, you lift again today. If you studied yesterday, you study again today. The war is eternal and the battlefield shifts daily. Think of fighters like Floyd Mayweather, undefeated not because he was the strongest, but because he never stopped refining his defense. Even at the top, even with millions in the bank, he trained as if he were still a hungry rookie. That is Machiavellian mastery, the refusal to rot in success. Contrast that with Mike Tyson, a man of terrifying discipline in his rise, but once he believed he had arrived, indulgence consumed him. The edge dulled, the throne crumbled, talent made him king. Comfort dethroned him. Machiavelli would say, "It is much safer to be feared than loved if one must choose." Apply that to yourself. It is safer to fear your own comfort than to love it. Because the moment you love it, it enslaves you. The fear of dullness must keep you awake. The vigilance against softness must keep you sharp. Now look at your own life. You've had moments of discipline, moments where you trained, studied, built, conquered. But what killed those streaks? Was it fatigue? Or was it the seductive whisper of a rival? You've done enough. That voice is the assassin. It lulls you into softness, and softness is the graveyard of greatness. Imagine two men climbing a mountain. One stops halfway, builds a camp, and declares victory. The other keeps climbing, even when the air thins, even when no one watches. Which man will see the world from heights no one else imagined? Which one are you? This is why discipline is no longer practice. It is identity. You don't just do discipline. You are discipline. It becomes instinct, muscle memory, marrow. When no one watches, when no one claps, when no one cares, you sharpen anyway. Because kings don't sharpen for applause. They sharpen for survival. And here lies the final transformation. You stop chasing peace. You start building presence. You stop craving applause. You start constructing legacy. You stop reacting. You start directing. Machiavelli himself was hated, feared, admired, misunderstood, but never ignored. That is the mark of power, to be unforgettable, even in silence. And if you take one thing from him, let it be this: power is not possession. Power is persistence. You are no longer shaped by others. You are the shape. You are no longer hoping for strength. You enforce it. You no longer seek respect. You embody it. And when you walk into a room now, you do not beg for space. You occupy it. You do not shout for attention. The air changes because your presence demands it. You are the storm in human form, not chaotic, but calculated, not reckless, but relentless. Comment below. Do you believe the game of power ever truly ends? Or do you agree with Machiavelli that the battlefield only changes and vigilance is eternal? Understand this: mastery is not about being untouchable once. It is about being untouchable forever. It is about the daily refusal to dull. That is the furnace that never dies. That is the crown that cannot be stolen. So say it now and mean it. I am the storm. I build endlessly. I sharpen daily. I do not arrive. I endure. And that endurance, that persistence, that eternal edge is what separates those remembered as kings from those recycled as corpses. This is the final law of ruthless psychology. You don't play the game of power. You become it.